Hello, I'm Tyler Newman, and this is a video to show you more about some of the things I've made. And I think it was 6th grade when I had my first idea to make an air gun. And I think a friend of mine told me that his uncle had built a potato gun that was powered by compressed air. And I had my first idea to build an air gun. And since then I've built a lot of different things, and I don't think anything I built it once and then that was that. I think everything that I built, I thought of one way or another to make it better or redesign it, and went back and built it again. So here are 4 things that I've built in different stages of the last few years, and I will explain them. So this was the first gun I ever built, and pretty much I just took a valve from a bicycle tube tire and screwed that on, and there's a chamber and just a simple ball valve and a barrel, and so that was it. You put whatever you want in there, a cork or something, and you pump it up with your bike pump, and then you'd shoot it. And so that was basically the beginning, and it went on from there. Later on I built this, which was the marble gun, and this one has a couple different things that I thought of. So here's the ball valve that shoots the gun, and when you want to load it, it's connected to this door spring that's connected by this shoestring and this big alligator clip. So you close the valve and you have the spring strung like that, and then you cock the barrel like that and put in your marble and pump it up, and when you're ready to shoot, it would shoot like that. So that was a lot of fun, and that's when I really started to get into more complicated design processes. So in 9th grade, my designs got a bit more complicated. What I wanted to try to do is build an air gun that would fire semi-automatically, instead of having to pump it up and then shoot one and then reload it and then pump it up again. So first thing I was thinking about is, how am I going to get ammo to load semi-automatically? So what I wanted to do is build a gun to shoot paintballs. And basically what I thought of is pretty simple, but is basically this. And this is just a little thing, and I'll show you how it works. This is your barrel, and this goes in here. And this is where the paintballs load. And what happens is, this rubber stopper inside the front of the gun, in there, is up flat against the end of a piece of pipe, and that's where the air is coming from. So every time the gun shoots, before the air can go through the barrel, it first has to push this rubber stopper out of the way. So it pushes this forward, pushing the paintball into the chamber here, and then the air goes around the rubber stopper and in through the side holes in this brass tube, through the middle, shoots the paintball, and then when the pressure's gone, locks back into place, and the next paintball drops in. And that's how I was able to make it semi-automatic. And how am I going to get the air to go semi-automatically? Well, that's where this very special valve comes in. So, to make the valve work semi-automatically, I had to modify a sprinkler valve. Now, as with everything, it doesn't always work the first time. So this is one I tried to use, and it didn't work. So I cut it up to see why. And basically, inside, you have this rubber diaphragm. And how it works is, the air coming from the chamber comes in all around, and this rubber part here seals up against the top of this, which is where your barrel would be, and makes it so no air can flow. And then what you do is, they're normally activated by a little 9-volt battery pack with a little switch. So you take that out and you drill a hole in the top, and you put in a piece of hose and a blowgun head. And what this does is, when it's pressurized, this part is pushed down, sealing it, and there's pressure on top. and in the hose. I don't know if this is making sense. When you release the pressure with the trigger, what happens is kind of a vacuum effect, that the air on top of this holding it down is now let out, so this pops up a little bit, and once it pops up, that air pressure, that all the air pressure in your tank pushes it out of the way and flows through. And then once that pressure comes back and you start filling up again, it automatically pushes back down. So this allows you to be connected to an air compressor or a CO2 tank, and it will fire and then fill back up and fire and fill back up, and you won't have to stop to fill it up. So that's what this is right here, and so there's my trigger. And you add that to the semi-automatic system for loading the paintballs that I already had, and you put a magazine on it to have paintballs in there, put a scope on it, put a pressure gauge on it so you know what pressure you're shooting at, and a nice ball valve to connect it to your source of air, and that's how you make the semi-automatic paintball gun. And more recently, I wanted to build a BB gun that would shoot BBs at a very high rate of fire. And the principle behind it is a vortex block. And the first one I built a couple years ago. And I built the vortex block out of a piece of plywood. And it worked really well, but it started chipping and breaking. And more recently, we have a 3D printer at our school in the engineering club, and I decided why not 3D print a new one. So on the computer, on SolidWorks program, I designed this to the exact specifications that I wanted it, and then printed it out with a 3D printer. And what this does is it sits right here in the gun, and a source of air comes from the bottom hole right here, and your barrel goes in the front hole right here, and they're both tangent to the circle. And BBs that are in the tube fall into the center of this circle and are spun around by the air that's already creating vortex, and then they're siphoned out of the barrel at a very fast rate. So this is basically what the gun looks like. And you can see there's the vortex blocks in here, and then your air source, and a wooden handle I made, and your barrel. And to load BBs, you just pour them in the back. And then you add this, which is a stock with also a spring plunger, so the BBs will always be like right where you want them to be. So you put that in. And then when the air source is introduced inside the vortex, it just starts sucking in BBs and spinning them and shooting them as fast as possible. And so that kind of concludes everything I wanted to talk about with how I built the guns and how they work. And then here's some video of a couple of them shooting, and I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you learned some more about things I've made. I also made this hat. Merry Christmas.
All right.
Let's see what happened to the mushroom. Oh, it's gone.
Yeah, it's gone.